Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tire Talk. It's currently the day after the Spanish Grand Prix. We're going to talk about our thoughts on it. Obviously Max did win, and it was pretty easy for him, but he made it look good. And we have got a couple of other interesting talking points to get into. But first of all, how are we doing, boys? How are you doing, Dan?
I am hot and bothered, but I'm all right.
It's boiling outside, isn't it? The heat
Yeah.
wave coming through England at the moment. What about you, Matty? How are you doing?
I'm so tired. I've been in work for hours and it's been busy. I just want to go to bed.
Yeah, well, you get the pleasure of talking to us first, which I'm sure you were looking forward to throughout your whole numerous hour shift at work. But look, let's jump straight into it, boys. So Max Verstappen obviously won the race. Do you want to give us? Let's go through qualifying first. Dan, do you want to run us through what happened in qualifying, the basics?
Well, it was pretty. Well, I say it was elementary, but Leclerc went out in Q1 because, well, there was something wrong with this car, which we still don't know because they pulled it apart and they don't know what was wrong with it. And then Perez had a stinker and went out in Q2. He went through the gravel because it was wet beforehand in the F2 race and the track still hadn't cleared up properly. And then Alonso went off and damaged his floor in Q3. So we got out qualified by Stroll and ruined my 23-0 prediction. Thanks,
Don't
Fernando.
forget, don't forget George Russell got knocked out in Q2 as well.
Yeah.
Yep, he did, but not before. He had a bit of contact with his teammate.
Yes. So what do we think? Who was at fault for that one? But do you want to quickly run us through what happened first and who was ahead of who?
Well, Russell was ahead. I still don't really. They say it was a miscommunication, but I think Hamilton had just finished a lap,
Yeah.
and then Russell was starting one, and then Hamilton tried to go past him, even though he could see Russell was starting a lap, and then Russell cut across him for no. Well, he said he didn't see him, but I think he wanted the track position. I think he did see him.
Yeah.
He wanted to be in front.
It was they were going past. Was it Carlos Sainz at the time?
I think yeah, I think they were both at fault, to be honest, because Lewis should have known that he was on a lap, and Russell shouldn't have cut across him that aggressively. But
yeah, no, I think it definitely could have been avoided. I think we saw quite a few like miscommunications between teams and the drivers, especially with Gasly, who I thought was actually really unlucky because I think what was it? So Sainz and Leclerc were both coming past him in Q3, sorry Q1, and
he impeded
yeah,
Sainz when he was going through the final new corner.
yeah, but he obviously let Leclerc pass, but he didn't. I think he must have misheard and only heard that there was one Ferrari or something. So he was just really unlucky. And then what was the second? What was the second impeding that he did?
He got in front of Max halfway through a lap.
Was that the one where Nando
Yeah,
sort of snitched
Alonso.
on him a little bit? He's like, "That's got to be a penalty. That's got to be a
That'll be three
penalty."
places.
Yeah.
And he had a really good session as well. He finished fourth in Q3.
Yeah.
Bless him. And then straight down on the order to 10th.
Actually, did he get points in the end? I can't remember where he finished. I feel like he sort of dipped down to like 14th, didn't he?
No, he scabbed one, I think.
Did he get one?
Finished 10th in the end.
10th.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the whole situation, Mike? What are your thoughts on qualifying?
Well, do you know what? I thought it was quite entertaining.
I agree.
I thought the Monaco qualifying was entertaining. I thought this one was entertaining. I was like, do you know what? It's going to be a good race, this. Without Max at the top, obviously, forget about him because he's Max Verstappen, so everyone knows he's going to win anyway. But you had Sainz in second, Norris in third. You're like, oh, here we go. But no.
It was it 7 different constructors in the top 7 at the start?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Alpine, my team. What's that? Gasly in fourth. This is before, obviously, the penalty.
Hulkenberg, cheeky 7th place.
Yeah.
Ocon,
he was awful.
Ocon in 7th. I was like, oh, here we go. Then
the race happened.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I feel like obviously, congrats to Lando Norris. Not that he's ever going to see this, but congrats to Lando Norris on that P3. That was pretty immense.
I don't think he's really. They're more bothered about the Sunday, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think as much as it was a really a very disappointing Sunday,
there's always positives to it.
Yeah, they can look at that and say, and even though his position was inflated because of the fact that some of the drivers weren't really prepared and driving properly according to the rain on, I think it was in turn 5. They can definitely look at that and take a lot of positives out of that, I think, and definitely as good signs going forward. Considering after pre-season, they arguably had the worst car coming into the start of the season in terms of reliability and even just the drive of it. So it's definitely looking a lot better for McLaren. I'll definitely say that. And I think another team who is definitely looking a lot better for as well, which segues beautifully onto my next point, is Mercedes. Are Mercedes now going to be looking to maybe challenge Max Verstappen for a couple of wins this season? What are we thinking, boys?
Yeah, I think they can build on this. I want to see it. I'm getting bored. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I like Max, but I want a bit of competition at the top of the field. Perez can't do that. You've seen that the past 2 weeks now. Perez is just not to the standards. But I think Lewis Hamilton is looking better than George Russell, though. I want to say that's my
I'm
opinion.
not sure. I think George. I know that Lewis Hamilton got driver of the day yesterday, but I really think it should have been George. I thought he was brilliant. You don't think so, Dan?
No, I think when you look at it, I still think it's only Lewis that, if it come down to it, can beat Max at the moment. Like, when it's easy, like once they've got a top quality car, now that they've evolved it, there's starting to be a bit of a level between Lewis and George, isn't there?
I'm not convinced. I do think it's very, very close, and I think
close.
the only thing with Russell is that he just needs time. He just needs a bit of time to sort of see where the line is.
Yeah, he beats him on experience. That's why Hamilton's doing better, because he's experienced in a far better car than what Russell's drove for Williams.
Yeah,
so that's what Lewis is better.
But I think Russell. I mean, last season Russell was definitely better than this, like by an absolute country mile. He was miles better. And I think this season it's been very close. I don't think there's much between them at all, to be honest. He was so much better than him last season. He was right.
No, he wasn't.
Was he not?
No,
am I thinking of things wrong?
He beat him on points, but that doesn't tell the whole story, I don't think. And once they started, once towards the back end of the season, once they got a car that was all right, Lewis beat him most weeks.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you about what I said. I did think from what I remembered, I thought Russell was just a lot better than him. I didn't know about all the setup stuff.
He started a lot better than him. He started a lot better.
Okay. But even though I really do think that I'm a big George Russell fan. I know a lot of people hate him, but I kind of think, well, not hate him, but I think a lot of people find him cringy and posh. But I just think that's kind of funny. Like when he comes on the radio and goes, "God, blimey, that was close." I just found that really funny, and I think, and I still remember watching him put that Williams on P2 in Spa, and like that genuinely just like that was as I was getting more into watching the races live and stuff. I think. And I remember just thinking, like, look at that, this guy's crazy. He's really going to go far, and I think he still will. I think still. Actually, I'll ask this as well. Do we think George Russell will win a world championship?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. You asked me, and I said no.
I agree. I don't think so.
You didn't have. I didn't have time to think. You just. I don't think Leclerc will.
No, I think as long as. I think Leclerc will. I think as long as Max and Leclerc both exist, I don't think George will.
Okay.
But boys, who's better? Like, I want you to rank the two Red Bull drivers and Mercedes drivers.
Oh, that's
so it's top four basically.
Right. Okay. It's Max, Lewis, George, Checo. That's
I'm
yeah.
I'll put Checo above George, you know.
No.
I'll put it
above
George.
No.
Boys, another question, yeah. After the qualifying incident, is this a start of a rivalry now between the two Mercedes drivers?
I don't think I don't think this really changes anything. I do genuinely think that I'll stand by saying that the incident in qualifying was just a miscommunication, because I don't really think, like, I don't think they hate each other or anything. And I think Lewis is very much aware that George is going to be the person that takes Mercedes into the future, I suppose you could say. I don't think he's going to, try and obstruct George. And I think as well, Lewis misses. So I think he's got a bad taste in his mouth of having a negative relationship with his teammates from Nico. I think he really enjoyed his time with Valtteri, and I don't think he's going to want an enemy across the other side of the box. But that's just the way I'm seeing it. What are you thinking, Dan?
I think it's always been there since George has come in. Like, you not notice like he's always on the radio asking where Lewis is? Like he seems to me like he's more bothered about finishing in front of Lewis than where like he finishes in the race.
You reckon that's an ego thing, though?
Yeah, but like
It's to finish above probably one of the best drivers to ever be in the sport. It's like an ego thing, innit? You want to be better than the best.
My comparison is look at Carlos Sainz. He's not bothered about where Leclerc is. Like he's more bothered about pushing Ferrari forward when they're in a bad moment. To me, George doesn't seem like that to me.
I reckon that could end up in a bad thing, that though, if he's more bothered about what Hamilton's doing. Like, it could be a bad thing for the team.
I don't think it's really like that in reality, purely because I think that George is still trying to prove himself, right? Whereas I feel like Carlos, I don't know what it is, but I've not felt particularly electrified by his performances recently. I feel like he's more Ferrari related, whereas George knows that Mercedes will be back whether he pushes it or not, and he's still trying to prove himself as an individual. I think he's kind of had to do that his whole career, having to start in a Williams that was right at the bottom of the grid, trying to prove his worth. Whereas Carlos is kind of, I don't know, maybe he's just more of a team player, but I think he might be also more aware that he's pivotal too. He's more pivotal himself compared to how George is to Mercedes for Ferrari to go forward. Maybe that's what I think.
Yeah, I also think Sainz did great this week. By the way, if we're going to segue on to Ferrari, they were awful again. But yeah, he did.
Yeah,
put it on the front row, and then he just got swallowed up, didn't he? Because there was obviously something wrong.
Ferrari is just an absolute mess right now. It's such a I guess it's a toxic place to be because I'm not going to lie. There was not a single second after he put it on P2 where I thought he's going to finish on the podium on Sunday. There was not a single moment of that for me. And there was not a single moment of it where I thought he's going to even stay. I mean, part of me was thinking, actually, when Alonso caught up with Stroll, I think there was still maybe 10 laps left, maybe. And I did genuinely think that if Stroll let Alonso through, Alonso possibly could have gone for Sainz. And obviously we didn't get to see that. But the Ferrari just gives me no confidence at the moment.
I don't think it's a toxic place. It's just, they just seem incompetent to me. Like, no one seems to know, like, when they brought the car back and they said they were going to pull it apart in Parc Fermé, if that was Red Bull, they'd have took it apart and they'd have identified the issue and they would have fixed it. And then Ferrari come back on Sunday. We still don't know the problem. Leclerc's starting from the pit lane now. We're not any closer to finding out the issue. And we're going to mess up his strategy anyway by putting him on the hards and then the softs and then the hards again. And he's not going to get the points. I just don't, they're just so, every decision they make seems to be the wrong one at the moment.
I couldn't agree more. I've seen a lot of stuff on TikTok about the strategy mess up that you're talking about, and it's like, and I saw a lot of the comments were saying how. So for those of you who don't know, basically Charles Leclerc was told to pit, and he was told that they'd be put that he'd be put back on hard tires, and he said no, we have to be on the soft tires because. When you're chasing, when trying to catch up, you have to be on the more aggressive strategy, basically, especially when your car is just more powerful than those around you. And Javi came back and said, yeah, okay, copy, we'll put you on the softs, basically. And then as soon as he got into the pit lane, he was told, right, we're putting you on hards again. And someone said he didn't speak on the radio again for like 14 laps or something after that. And you just got to feel like how, as a driver, you've just got to think like, why are they not listening to me? Like I'm the person who's actually at the
you got to trust the driver sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
But wasn't he one of the fastest on the hard tires though? That's not the point. That's not the point. Like, but
no, but that's another thing about the Ferrari. He come out after the race and he said, for the first stint on the hard tires, it was awful, and then on the second stint on the same tire, it was good. So there's obviously something wrong with the car because if they're on the same tire. Yeah, he's got a little bit less fuel, but the way he was describing it, he was like he couldn't work out why the car was behaving the way it is, and that's not what you want for a top driver. If Leclerc can't figure out why the car is behaving in a certain way, then you've got a problem, haven't you?
It's like to treat him like a child for like, yeah, we'll put you on softs, just to make sure
he's in the pit.
Yeah.
And Dan, you mentioned how if it was Red Bull, they would have found the issue like that. it's got to be so worrying for Charles Leclerc to know that there was a minor issue that happened, because he said that he was fine during practice. He was fine, putting in fast times, whatever. And then as soon as he got to quality, it all just went up in flames. And he said that, and he's got to be thinking, how am I a team of engineers? Bear in mind, Ferrari is F1. Like, it's literally it is the DNA of motorsport racing, and they can't work out what one thing has changed to a car to make it so poor overnight, and then suddenly, like you said, he's starting from the pit lane in a car that's no different, that still has the issues from the day before. You just got to think, like, that's so worrying for Charles Leclerc. What's he supposed to do with that?
If I'm Charles Leclerc, I'm looking at, Max and him have had such a similar career, haven't they, so far? Yeah, Max has 40 Grand Prix victories and Leclerc only has 5. I'm looking at that thinking, if I'm Leclerc, I'm thinking I'm just as good as Max. Yeah, he's got this many wins, he's got 2 championships, and here I am dicking about at Ferrari. Like, at some point, he's got to think, he's got to be looking elsewhere, I think, now.
But where though?
Yeah, Mercedes. Genuinely.
Yeah, Mercedes.
But when's Hamilton gonna go?
He's gonna retire eventually.
He'll retire within the next few seasons, and Leclerc can stick around.
He needs to leave before the 26th regulation change. He needs to get into a team for there. Maybe it's Aston Martin if they continue this upward trajectory, because Alonso's going to retire eventually as well. There's 2 seats there, Mercedes and Aston, and there's obviously the Audi project going on. If he wants to look a bit, further into the future than that.
Well, did you not see that thing today? See on Twitter, what? Helmut Marko came out and said apparently Christian Horner nearly went to Ferrari for this season, but yeah, he paid him more money.
No, I don't think that's. I don't think anyone within the right mind is going to touch that job with a 10-foot pole.
No,
to be honest.
According to Helmut Marko, that's what.
Yeah, Helmut Marko.
He's always joking. That man looks like he's dead. He could be talking with.
I want to know who keeps talking to Helmut Marko, because every week he says something stupid. Who is talking to him?
What reporters getting stuff out of him?
I know.
I do actually think that raises an interesting point, actually, because there's been a lot of talk about, well, maybe not a lot of talk. There's been some talk about Max retiring from Formula One in 2028 when his contract expires. Because realistically, he could very easily have 4 or 5 championships by then, right? This will be his 3rd this season. There's no doubt in my mind. Unless he literally dies, I just don't see how he's not winning his 3rd, right? And there's a very good chance that he wins every championship up to the 2026 regulation change. And then it's for a fair game, I guess. But if Red Bull nail it once again, then if Verstappen retires with, let's say, like 6 world championships, and then he goes to do NASCAR or IndyCar or the 24-hour Le Mans, do we think Leclerc could replace him at Red Bull in 2028?
Such a long time.
It's hard to say though, isn't it? Because you don't know. Ferrari could turn out to be amazing. You know what I mean? So it's hard to predict the future because you don't know what the teams are going to change like. Because next season, you never know. Like Aston Martin, look at last year. Near the end of last year, yeah, they were all right, but this year they came out of nowhere. So next season, it's hard to say like years to come where it's going to be. That's just my opinion.
They don't fill you with confidence, though, do they? Because they brought upgrades to Barcelona, didn't they? And they've gone backwards again, I think.
Yeah.
When you look at where you look at, I think it was in Monaco last year, and they compared Leclerc's pole to his lap time this year, and it was only like a 10th or 2 quicker. So like they've only made like Red Bull like a second quicker than they were last year, and Ferrari they're not going at a quick enough rate. Like they've been overtaken by Merck, who were crap at the start of the regs. They've been overtaken by Aston Martin, who were nowhere. And then you've got a couple of teams. Alpine are right on them now, aren't they?
Yeah, they've really improved since. Well, it would be Imola time. Obviously, Imola can't go cancel, but they've had a really good set of results these past few weeks, haven't they? So I was thinking that, and I'm sure Matty, you love to see that. Ocon getting up there.
It's just a guy, isn't he? Just a nice guy.
Let's say hypothetically that Alpine continue it, yeah. Let's say hypothetically Alpine continue. That would mean Ferrari would go from the best car at the start of 2022 to halfway through 2023 being the 5th best car.
it would be. It really does ask the question, doesn't it? You know, what will it take for Charles Leclerc to jump ship? Because he is so much better than P19 in any car, like literally any car he would put into. Probably he could get most cars into Q3 because his pace of warm up is just ridiculous. And to be bogged down in P19 and then to struggle to get points and then to suggest a strategy, your team say yes and then just ignore you and then you struggle to get into the points. You've got to be thinking like, you know, what more does he have to do? But
At what point did we start questioning Leclerc's ability?
No.
Honestly,
there's no doubt.
It's a joke.
question.
It's a joke. I've seen on Twitter.
Skill issue. Skill issue.
I'm not gonna lie. I just saw picket lines of people protesting against you, Matty, coming after Leclerc after this week.
No, I've seen on Twitter. So I thought I'll throw it out to you.
Yeah, I just changed the chides himself. My God.
To be fair, he'd be quicker if he got out the car and put on or did like put them on himself. He'd probably get close to saving lap time. But let's move on. Let's move on from some of the drivers. Let's talk about track because obviously the big news this year at the start of the season. Well, one of the big news is from the start of this season was that there would be the removal of the chicane at the end of the lap in Spain, and I think it was a hit. What are you boys thinking?
I was down for it. I loved it. It made following easier. And shout out, I'm going to say this, you're going to be so surprised. Shout out Lance Stroll in qualifying. No, hear me out. He was the only man with the cojones to take that corner at full speed. So with full throttle, so fair play to him.
No,
he was the only one that didn't lift.
Didn't Lando do it? He said it.
No, it was just Stroll.
Davis.
It was just Stroll apparently.
I think Lando had a slight lift, like a tiny.
I was watching the interview and he said, I went flat out a couple of times.
I saw the throttle graph thing. Apparently, it was only Stroll that put his foot down the whole way through. So fair play, Lance.
Yeah, fair play to him.
For a boy. But yeah, it was good. It sets because the straight's so long, and I don't know why they thought the chicane was a good idea in the first place. But yeah, it set up nice, and there's a lot more overtakes I thought this year.
Yeah, I thought it was actually a really good race. If I'm honest, I mean there were bits of it that were boring. Actually, well, I say that yesterday it was getting late, and I was thinking Blumenek. That was boring, but I do think we did see quite a lot of overtakes, really, didn't we?
What was your rate out of L10? Anything higher than a 5, and you're just chatting shit.
Higher than 5?
No, anything higher.
I appreciate the grand.
Anything higher than a 5, you're chatting.
I appreciate the Grand Slam, so
yeah.
I'd say 6. I appreciate a Grand Slam.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's 6. I think people are forgetting, by the way, that people are sort of taking Max Verstappen for granted. There's a reason that he's doing this and that Checo isn't. They're in the same car. People are forgetting. Checo's struggling to 4th place, sorry, and Max Verstappen is just putting one of the most dominating performances in F1. Not that we've ever seen, but he was absolutely fantastic. Not a foot wrong. He was setting fastest laps for fun, literally just for fun. He did not need to do
Joe was Verstappen. Joe in F1 where you play career mode.
Yeah,
it's like he's playing on the easiest difficulty, and he's just flying around, just in fit. Like he didn't get fastest everything. Everything the whole weekend.
The only session he didn't top was Q1. He was fastest in every practice, fastest in Q2, Q3, led every lap, fastest lap.
Yeah,
I thought he did get the Grand Slam.
He did get the Grand Slam.
Or is Q1 not?
No,
is it
Grand
just Pole's fastest lap?
Grand Slam's pole, fastest lap, lead every lap and win.
Oh, okay. You'd have to be topping every session.
No, he just led every lap as well. So
he's something else.
Casually. He just is ridiculous.
No, he did. He did top P1.
No, he Q1. Lewis got Q1, P1.
I think in practice one.
Yeah.
No, he was fast in all 3 practices.
Apologize.
But he qualified 4/10 faster than Carlos Sainz in Q3.
And he aborted his second lap as well. He was a 10th up.
I mean, it's actually just ridiculous. Like, I'm sure I know we've seen performances like that before. It's not unheard of to go that far ahead, but it just felt like everyone else was so close, and then he just puts in 4/10 faster than everyone else.
Don't make it better as well. He's just a nice guy as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just a lovely guy.
He seems like he's got some trauma behind him. To be honest,
the lad just goes on streams. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I find that funny actually. He's the Haaland of F1, and
Then
he
again,
goes
Lando
home.
Norris to stream as well.
No, but I find it funny with have you seen that thing recently where Verstappen he had like I can't remember what race it was. It might even have been Monaco, and then he went home to do the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans on his,
Yeah.
and it like crashed, and he was getting all angry with the people who like run it because it crashed and stuff. He's
He
just
loves
a
that though, doesn't
competitor,
he?
really,
What's
isn't
the website called? It's on me, man. The
And
website that he plays on.
what Team
he?
Redline? What the team he drives for?
No, what's like the? It's like the game on the PC. I
Oh,
forgot
I
what it's
don't know.
called.
Oh,
I'm sure the Liverpool owners own it.
did they?
I'm sure of it.
No, no, no.
But
James,
that like he's got his World Championship trophy chilling on the mini fridge.
Yeah.
Then a pillow of himself. It's just a nice guy.
yeah.
I keep seeing recommended videos to him on YouTube of it's like 6 minutes of Max Verstappen casually trauma dumping in like interviews and stuff. And there was
Oh,
something
bloke.
where I think he was doing an interview with like Carlos Sainz or something, or like one of those like silly YouTube videos, and Carlos like went like this or something with like a pen, and he was like, "Oh, my dad did that with a fork to an engineer once, like as a
Oh, I
joke."
think I've seen that. I think
And
I've
it was
seen
it
that
was,
one.
it was with Ricardo, and he was just like,
Yeah.
Nice
poor
flex.
guy. Yeah, his
Nice
life is fully racing, isn't it? He's not really got much else
Did you
other
Yeah, like
see,
him
than
did you
and
see his
of,
reaction of Lando Norris when he got P3 in the
yeah.
interview?
what happened.
He went, what did he say? He said like, I didn't
He's
expect
like,
Lando to be there. He went, oh,
Oh
sorry,
yeah, I think
sorry.
I've seen it.
I didn't expect McLaren to be there. I always expect Lando to be there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Oh,
just,
he seems like such a
yeah.
sound guy. I can't lie. He's just a
You can't.
competitor, really, isn't
I know, like people have like issues with him, but like he just wants to win his races, go home, and sit on his Xbox. On he bless him.
he? Yeah, and
Like,
win more races on there.
yeah. Do you see the clip of him arguing with GP about the fastest lap when it's like, stay in track limits, and he goes, "What's the
Yeah.
fastest lap?" And he goes, "Oh, it's Checo. Checo's got new softs and DRS. I wouldn't worry about it." And then he just ignores him and sets it anyway.
And then GP was just like, right, stay within the white lines now. And he was
Now you
like,
can stay in the white lines.
yeah. I think we always
Yeah.
knew. We always knew. Like Max Verstappen, he knows he did that point will not mean anything to him come the end of the season, but
but
he had to
He
do
won it
it.
anyway.
Yeah.
do you think drivers like to be out alone or actually battling?
See,
I
they say
think
they
I
like
think
it
But
so. You go on.
would they prefer to be just be
because, like,
a nice
I remember
Sunday drive alone?
because I've seen two answers to this. Because Lewis used to say, didn't he, all the time? I wish more teams would be at the front. And then as soon as Max got involved, it was like we're beefing every week. They were
Mm.
stressing everyone out, and Abu Dhabi happened, and I'm sure he didn't enjoy that. But then Max was asked that recently, and he just said, "No, I'd rather just win every race by 20 seconds." So I don't know what that says about Max, but
I think the thing with Lewis saying that is that he's used to being better than everyone else around him, and then Max came in, and not only was he pushing Lewis in terms of the quality of his driving, but he was also just a horrible person to be competing against because he's aggressive on the track. He's just he's an absolute he is a bully, really, isn't he? In terms of on the track,
oh
as we
yeah,
saw turn one, he gave Carl, he didn't even entertain the idea of Carlos Sainz go for an overtake. Did he? He just said no,
no,
no. So he's literally the worst teammate.
But
Well, sorry,
client
the worst person to compete against.
little plug here, yeah, for that episode coming out on Friday, the full episode with Tom of F1, yeah. He did predict a stinker from Fernando Alonso.
yeah,
That
Oh, he
won't,
did, yeah.
that will not be in the episode, but because obviously I had to edit it out because it would have been out
Yeah.
of date. But he did predict a stinker from Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, Tom, he's just got the wheel knowledge, doesn't he? None of
So
us
he
said
does.
that.
No,
Should,
well,
should,
I
we-
think yeah.
should
Should
we
we
move
move
on?
on? Yeah.
I was thinking we talk about the Sonoda penalty to round
Yeah.
the race talk off.
Oh,
So
you
for those of you who didn't know, Sonoda was battling I think he was 8th, 9th or 10th, somewhere around there. And Guan Yu Zhou had the DRS on him, and he went for a move around the outside at turn one, lap 52, I believe, or around there. Late on in the race, Sonoda, I'm not I still don't know whether it was deliberate or not, but he basically didn't give Zhou any space, and took the corner, and Zhou had to go off on a little runoff, because obviously the track's so wide in Spain. And then I think it was just after the race finished, literally a couple of seconds after Max went over the line, they gave Tsunoda a 5-second penalty, which dropped him from, I think, either 8th or 9th to 11th and took him out of the points.
He dropped from 9th to 12th, yeah. He just went, bless him.
So that's what happened, and the FIA clearly think that was an illegal defensive move. What are your thoughts on it, Dan?
I thought it was harsh, too harsh.
Yeah,
I know it was lap 1, but Max did the same thing to Carlos on the first lap. And if I think the more appropriate thing would have been just give the place back, and then you can try and win it back off him.
Yeah,
because that would have kept him still in the points, which he deserved to finish because he had an absolutely fantastic race.
Yeah,
and it just, like I say, just ruined his race for no reason. They should have just said give the place back, and then go from there. But because he was stuck behind Ocon, wasn't he? So he couldn't build a 5-second gap anyway.
Yeah,
it just it was just awful stewarding. Like Gunther Steiner got pulled, didn't he, for saying that stewarding was awful, and then go and do something like that, which is just ruins a driver's race for no reason. I thought
they've been harsh this season, haven't they? Very harsh.
I don't mind stewards being harsh. For example, with all the stuff, I think most of it was in Bahrain, or was it Ocon in Bahrain or Alonso in Bahrain, where they weren't in the right grid slot. And I don't mind being harsh on that because that is just the rules. If you break the rules, I do believe you should be penalised. But I'm gonna have to. I agree with Dan actually in the sense that they should have just made Yuki give the position rather than just because. Sometimes it feels like, and as much as it's never deliberate, they are fully aware of the fact that if they give a 5-second penalty to Tsunoda, he's out the points, which, like I said, just gives him no chance. Whereas if you give the position back and then, like you say, make him fight for it, then the race carries on, and realistically, it's no time lost. And he might have been a bit annoyed, but he'd still be in the points, which is actually something he's not. Whilst he's been very, very consistent, he's not scored a whole lot of points, Yuki, so far.
You've seen worse given for less.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing is as well, I think context with how, if that was at lap 20 and he could have served the set penalty at the pit stop, then fair enough. But like I say, when there's 10 laps to go and he's stuck behind Ocon and he can't build the gap and he can't show his proper pace, and he's just ruining his race for no reason. He's gone a little, he's pushed Joe off a little bit, and he didn't even touch him. There was still room for him to go around the corner. If he smashed him off at road wheel to wheel, then he's fair enough. But he didn't even do that. So it was completely overboard, I think. And
he's only scored 2 points this season.
Yeah, he's finished. He was going to score in Monaco and his brakes failed. He was going to score this week, and they give him a penalty for no reason. He's in the second worst car. He's he finished 11th in 2 races back to back. He's having a great season. He's just getting stiffed all the time.
Yeah. And I think that
you go, Joe. You go.
I was going to say, does this season? Because we said at the start of the season that De Vries was, and I quote, De Vries was going to breeze Yuki, but I think we've seen this season maybe Yuki is the right replacement for Sergio Perez.
I love him. He's quality.
But I was going to say, I think I'm going to mention this every single race review now. Yeah, I mentioned it last week with Dan about is De Vries's time run out? Because didn't we give him 4 races?
Yeah, but I think
that's 2 down, and he's still on 0 points.
Helmut Marko said that he's improved. He was impressed with him in Monaco, because we have to remember that the AlphaTauri is probably, apart from the Williams and maybe the McLaren, it's not better than anything else, is it? So to be getting any points in that is a proper uphill task, especially when they've had a race where no one's DNF'd like this week. You're asking a lot to get any points in a race like that. So I think,
but at the same time, Yuki's dragging that car at the table. Though I'm not seeing any sort of spark from De Vries, and I'm yet to be impressed. He's not really done anything so far where I thought, oh, go on.
No, I think that's fair enough, but I think he's getting better. Yuki's having he's having an exceptional year. And with De Vries, he's stopped crashing as much, which is the first problem solved. That's why Mick Schumacher got sacked, is he couldn't stop crashing, and De Vries has stopped doing that for now. and he got into Q2 for the last 2 races, which is in that dog of a car is important. And like I say, there's not been much opportunity. Like it's in Monaco, so you can't overtake, and then no one's DNF'd in front of him. So I think it needs to open up for him, but I don't think he's doing too badly at the minute.
Maybe everyone
I agree with that.
Overhyped him during him.
Yeah.
I think the whole situation with Alpine probably didn't help. Well, obviously it didn't help. But I mean, like people, obviously, when people start hearing about, if it had just been De Vries joins AlphaTauri, everyone would have gone, oh, okay. Whereas because of the fact it was like, oh, De Vries joins Alpine. Oh wait, no, he doesn't. Or who's this hot prospect? Coming into F1 and changing things up, making everything interesting. Everyone's sort of maybe say everyone's getting a bit too excited. I mean,
weren't that Piastri?
No, but because it was Piastri started.
Didn't he announce Piastri as a driver?
But there was a point where he was going to sign for Alpine, wasn't there, as a replacement for Piastri? McLaren he was linked with McLaren and Alpine, and then Williams for a bit, and he was linked with about half the teams on the grid, wasn't he? At the start.
Yeah, I think I did get confused, but my point does still stand. All this news about people just sort of raises.
Then his career as well, what he's achieved in his career, separate motorsport.
Yeah,
a lot of pressure.
It just shows the level,
doesn't
it? Shows the level, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it does. I mean, I was watching the race with Callum. Obviously, you guys know those, but viewers don't. But with one of my mates, and he was saying that De Vries is the perfect example of the difference between other forms of car motorsports and Formula One, because there's no doubt that De Vries was brilliant in F2 and is brilliant in Formula E, and he's just really struggling, or at least he has been really struggling in Formula One, and it does just sort of perfectly sum up, I think, and I think that was a good point from a mate.
Yeah, that's what I think would be. I'd be terrified of that happening to Drugovich if he came in, because I really like him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Joe, you want to do your overtake of the week then?
Yes. So a lot of the overtakes this week were pretty much DRS at turn 1, but I've pulled out 3, which I think were different for various reasons, and I would like you guys to vote for your overtake of the week. So I believe in order in which they happened. So the first one I've got is George Russell on Esteban Ocon, turn 1, lap 11. The notes I've got about this, I'm not going to lie, I've forgotten about what actually happened with this one, but I've got late braking, which I think means that he broke late. I remember at the time thinking it was a good enough one because I wrote it down. It was the first one I wrote down. But I'm gonna say it straight away. That probably wouldn't be my favourite overtake of the week, because these two both I thought were much more interesting. But number 2, it was lap 12, so 1 lap later, same corner. It was Hulkenberg going past Guan Yu Zhou and Yuki Tsunoda, who I believe one of them was coming out of the pits. And then I think it was Yuki coming out he just come out of the pit, and then Guan Yu Zhou, he went down I think it was on the outside of Guan Yu Zhou turn 1, and then as the corner swept back to the left, he went round went down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda, which I thought was a very good overtake. Weaving in between 2 cars, it looked cool. Fight me. And then the third one I've got is Fernando Alonso, going back to his Alpine days, fighting with Esteban Ocon at turn 1 again, lap 52, where it was very similar to, was it Vettel on Hamilton maybe a couple of years ago? I can't remember who it was.
Big on the grass.
Yeah. So he switched really, really late to the inside, basically on the grass. I think he just about missed the grass on this kit, or I think he clipped the grass, and took the position late on in the race, lap 52. So what are we thinking, boys?
I think number 1 and number 3 are an absolute joke, by the way. Both overtaking my goat, so they're out. I'm going for number 2. Number 2. Probably number 3, because Ocon did move a bit late to shut him off.
A little bit late, just a little.
Just a little bit.
Not what he reminded
not
me
that much,
of?
but I'm messing about it.
It wasn't as bad, but the clip in Hungary where Schumacher shoves Barrichello basically into the wall.
Yeah.
And he's like, he should be black flagged for that. Like, he was coming across, like, very late.
It was very late.
Alonso, because it's sheer cojones.
So I'm gonna say
Yeah.
I'll say number 3.
Yeah, so I feel like as much as there were a fair amount of overtakes this weekend, most of them were pretty simple. But that Alonso on Ocon turn 1, lap 52, the tyre talk overtake of the week. Not
Well done,
too much
Fernando.
competition, but well done, Fernando. You had a mid race. We could talk. I feel like we could talk for hours about Fernando Alonso this season, but let's not waste anyone's time. So now that we've done our overtake of the week, we'll look for. Well, we can drop in a little message for our next video coming out, where we did have a very special guest, a certain Tomo F1. So we've got a couple of videos coming out about that. We spoke to him about the YouTube scene, about F1. We'll get you'll hear his thoughts and our thoughts on some of the most recent stuff going on in F1 and the YouTube creation scene. But for now, thank you very much for listening or watching on whatever platform you're on. Make sure to keep checking out our socials and our website. We'll definitely getting that updated regularly at the moment. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week.